6:47 p.m. The Grand Aurelia Hotel, Vienna. Gold light splintered across the marble lobby. Lucas Hartmann, 39, a single father, held his 7-year-old daughter, Mia. He had just helped a woman who stumbled. The woman stood up and pulled out a thick envelope. Her voice was icy. "Take it. Compensation." Lucas shook his head decisively. "I'm not taking your money." The woman froze. When she looked up, Lucas felt an electric shock. Those eyes. A familiar whisper. She whispered, her composure shattered. "Lucas!" The love he had lost 12 years ago was standing right in front of him. Lucas Hartmann was built on sacrifice. At 39, his hands were calloused from a decade of repairing furnaces and air conditioning units. He was an HVAC technician, a single father, and the entire universe to his daughter, Mia. His life was a testament to staying put. Mia's mother, his wife, had passed away shortly after giving birth. Since then, Lucas had seamlessly merged the roles of father, mother, and provider. His world was small, functional, and intensely warm. They lived in a compact apartment above a quiet bakery. Mia loved old dog-eared books. Lucas worked manual labor, often taking the grueling night shifts, ensuring he was present for her morning wake-up and evening tuck-in rituals. Luxury was a clean bill of health and a functioning fridge. 12 years ago, his world was entirely different. It was defined by a burning, idealistic love with Elena Weiss. Back then, they were both poor students at the university in Vienna. They shared the same threadbare jacket, the last slice of bread, and endless hopeful conversations by the Danube River. Their love was messy and real, forged in hardship. Elena, however, was a rising star, brilliant, fiercely ambitious, and destined for far more than a life in their small Austrian city. When she won a prestigious scholarship to study economics in London, the choice became brutal. Lucas's mother had just been diagnosed with a severe, debilitating illness. He could not leave. The choice was never a choice at all. Their final conversation was a silent, emotional war fought in the pouring rain. Elena, heartbroken and desperate, cried, "If you loved me enough, you'd come with me. You'd prioritize us." Lucas, rooted to his responsibility, whispered back, "If you loved me enough, Elena, you'd stay. You'd see that family is here." They separated in a silence colder than the Vienna winter. They never spoke again. The ambition in her was a force Lucas couldn't compete with. The responsibility in him was a chain Elena couldn't comprehend. What Lucas didn't know was the full weight of Elena's pain. He didn't know that she had returned briefly, a few months later, searching for him. But his mother had passed and Lucas had moved, vanishing into the city's vast working class. The pain of the past was compounded by the lie of omission. Lucas kept one relic from that time. Tucked deeply into his worn leather wallet, neatly folded, was a concert ticket to a small local jazz band. It was the last gift Elena had ever given him. He hadn't unfolded it in years. It was less a memento and more a quiet, 12-year-old scar hidden in plain sight. He stayed. He lived. He endured. The woman in the Grand Aurelia was indeed Elena Weiss, 35, now the undisputed CEO of Weiss Global, a financial juggernaut. Her power was palpable. She was surrounded by a cloud of impeccably dressed assistants, bodyguards, and lawyers who materialized and disappeared at her subtle command. Her suit cost more than Lucas earned in a year. Her watch contained more technology than his entire toolbox. Yet the moment Lucas rejected her money, the very symbol of her current world, she was utterly thrown. It was a language she no longer understood. She quickly dismissed her entourage with a curt, urgent hand signal. "Wait outside. I need a moment." Lucas stood his ground, Mia's small hand clutching his trousers. The air was thick with the weight of 12 unspoken years. "You don't owe me anything, Elena," Lucas said, his voice flat, professional, and entirely devoid of warmth. He was a wall of practical, hardened indifference. Elena's gaze drifted from his worn work jacket to the small, bright face of Mia. The girl looked exactly like Lucas, but with Elena's fierce, intelligent eyes. "She's your daughter." Elena's voice was barely a whisper. She looked at Mia, A lifetime of missed possibilities condensed into one brief, agonizing glance. The silence lasted too long. Elena tried to bridge the chasm. She spoke rapidly, detailing her life, the sleepless nights, the ruthless acquisitions, the summits scaled. Success was her companion. Loneliness, her constant shadow. She had no family, no true home, only sprawling anonymous penthouses. Her achievements felt like elaborate decorations on an empty grave. Lucas offered only fragments of his journey. I stayed. My mother passed. My wife passed. Life happened. I had a job to do, and I did it. The first real point of conflict arose when Elena, seeking desperately to alleviate her crushing guilt and perhaps reclaim a sliver of the past, reached for a professional solution. Lucas, please, let me help with Mia, a trust fund, a better school. You deserve. Lucas cut her off, his composure shattered, replaced by a deep, furious pride. Stop right there, Elena. My daughter isn't a charity project. She has everything she needs, a roof, food, and a father who is present. Don't confuse your guilt with generosity. You don't get to buy your way back into my life or hers. Elena recoiled as if slapped. The rejection stung more than any hostile takeover. Lucas hadn't changed. He still refused to monetize human connection. I only want to ease your burden, she pleaded, her CEO mask momentarily slipping to reveal the raw student beneath. My burden is my purpose, Lucas stated simply, and it's mine to carry. Mia, sensing the sudden tension, pulled Elena's heavily gloved hand. She looked up at the intimidating, beautiful woman with innocent curiosity. Daddy doesn't like money gifts, Mia said, her voice clear and caring in the quiet lobby. He likes people. You should be a person, not a gift. Elena's entire financial world, the world she had sacrificed everything to build, crumbled under the weight of a 7-year-old's simple truth. Lucas didn't want her money. He wanted the Elena who understood that human value transcended financial worth. That simple realization was her undoing. The successful CEO was utterly captivated, utterly humbled, and utterly changed. Lucas was the only truth she had encountered in 12 years. Elena left the Grand Aurelia, not for a board meeting, but for a silent, desperate investigation. She tasked her most discreet team with researching Lucas Hartmann's life. The findings were a hammer blow. Lucas had lost his mother just weeks after their devastating split. He had buried his wife after a difficult childbirth, then spent years navigating crushing grief and poverty, all while fiercely protecting Mia. The ambitious Elena had left him because she thought he chose duty over her. The truth was, his duty had become a relentless chain of suffering and loss. He never had a chance to follow. Twist 1. The Lost Child. The investigation unearthed one more devastating secret Elena had been carrying. She called Lucas to her penthouse the next day. The sterile luxury felt like a spotlight on their shared failure. I didn't just leave you, Lucas, she whispered, her voice choked with tears. I lost our baby. Lucas stared at her, the rage of a decade cooling instantly into a chilling grief. What? She confessed that weeks after arriving in London, the stress and loneliness had caused her to miscarry. I was terrified. I was alone. I thought if I came back, you'd hate me. I thought I ruined your life. So I poured everything into the company. I built this empire as an anesthetic, Lucas, to numb the pain of losing you and losing our child. Lucas stumbled back, catching himself on the glass table. The anger he had harbored, the belief that she had chosen money over him, vanished. It wasn't ambition that drove her initially. It was fear and profound, unmanaged pain. His own years of quiet suffering were instantly joined by hers. The years of resentment turned into years of shared grief. They had both been broken, alone, carrying invisible scars. Twist 2. The public humiliation. The media, ever watchful, caught wind of the CEO's meeting with a working-class single father and immediately sensationalized it. A notorious tabloid published a front-page article. Weiss, global CEO, spends millions to bail out poor ex-lover. Is this her latest charity case? Lucas was humiliated. At the construction site, the jokes started instantly. His dignity, the only thing he fiercely held on to, was being mocked and cheapened by Elena's world. He drove straight to her office, his face tight with furious despair. He stormed past her security, past her shocked assistant, and into her inner sanctum. "I told you I didn't want your money," he roared, his voice echoing off the glass walls. "I didn't ask for your world to crush mine. I built a life of quiet respect, Elena, and you just flattened it with your celebrity and your charity. Do you think you can fix every problem with a press release and a check?" Elena didn't defend herself. She let his justified rage wash over her. But the press was waiting for her outside. 100 cameras flashed. A reporter shouted a vile question about Lucas being a kept man. Elena, composed for the first time in years, took the microphone. Her eyes found the lens, and she spoke with a clarity that silenced the crowd. "I have a statement," she announced. "Lucas Hartmann is not my charity. He is not a project. He is the man I once loved. And I never, not for a single day, stopped loving him." The world paused. The headlines of Weiss Global's next quarter instantly became irrelevant. The ruthless, isolated CEO had confessed her deepest vulnerability, her most enduring truth, to the entire globe. Her declaration was not just words. Later that week, a massive merger with a rival firm collapsed. Elena had personally vetoed the deal after the rival CEO casually insulted Lucas, referring to him as that blue-collar problem you're dating. She walked away from billions to protect the dignity of the man she loved. Lucas watched the news footage later that night. The noise of the construction site jokes now replaced by the dizzying roar of her public defense. He slowly reached into his wallet. He unfolded the small, brittle concert ticket. He drove to Elena's apartment and handed it to her without a word. Elena took the ticket. She saw the creases, the worn edges, the 12 years of constant presence in his life. She sank to the floor, finally allowing herself to weep for the life they lost and the love they had carried, wounded but alive, across a terrible decade. Elena's confession marked the beginning of her dismantling of the gilded cage she had built. The CEO started acting like a person. She began taking the tram with Lucas to his job site. She tried to cook for Mia and Lucas, resulting in inedible pasta, which Lucas gently taught her to fix. She stopped talking about her quarterly reports and started listening to Lucas talk about Mia's new hobby, collecting funny-shaped pebbles. She listened without offering to buy a better hobby or a bigger house. She simply listened. Mia, naturally cautious of strangers, slowly warmed to Elena. Elena never tried to replace her mother. She simply became a friend who made her laugh and told her incredible stories about the world outside Vienna. Mia learned that a CEO could also spill soup. The board of directors, however, were in open revolt. They demanded an emergency meeting. "The optics, Elena. You are destroying the image we cultivated. This man is a distraction. You are compromising billions for sentimentality." Elena faced them on the video screen, but her voice was different now. It was calm, centered, and radiating genuine authority, not manufactured power. "Gentlemen," she said, looking straight into the camera, "I lost myself once chasing an image I thought you valued. I won't do it again. I am trading your approval for my integrity. My focus is clearer, my decisions are less volatile, and my commitment is absolute. If you have a financial argument, I will listen. If you have a personal smear, I will terminate your contract." The discussion ended instantly. Lucas remained guarded. He watched Elena's efforts, appreciative but reserved. He feared the past repeating itself, the sudden pull of the global stage, the eventual realization that his simple, small world couldn't sustain her ambition. One evening he asked, his voice raw with fear, "What happens, Elena, when the next big deal calls you to New York for 6 months? What happens when my life is not enough for your world?" Elena reached out, covering his rough hand with her smooth one. "I learned my lesson, Lucas. The grand life is hollow. Your life is full. I won't ask you to follow me again. I'll walk beside you. I'm moving my primary operations base to Vienna. I will build an executive team capable of handling the global load so that I can focus on what actually matters, being here." Lucas didn't believe her until he saw the blueprints. Elena sold her massive empty penthouse and bought a simple, beautiful house on the outskirts of Vienna, complete with a sprawling garden for Mia and a garage large enough for Lucas's tools. It wasn't a castle, it was a home, the test of simplicity. The true test came 3 weeks after they moved in. It was a bitterly cold December night, and Vienna was blanketed in snow. Lucas was out on a grueling emergency call. A pipe burst at the municipal shelter. Elena, alone with Mia, was trying to settle into the unfamiliar quiet of domesticity. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died. A chilling, mechanical groan echoed from the basement before silence returned. The boiler had failed. Elena immediately went into CEO crisis mode. She snatched her satellite phone. "I need the head of facilities now. Get an emergency engineering team from Frankfurt. I need a temporary generator flown in within the hour." Mia, wrapped in a blanket, looked terrified. "It's cold, Elena. Will we be okay?" Elena paused, the phone halfway to her ear. Her corporate solution was overkill, impossible, and useless in the face of a simple, frozen pipe. Her power was useless against the cold. The front door opened and Lucas, dusted with snow and utterly exhausted, walked in. He assessed the situation instantly. He didn't need a corporate directive, he needed a wrench. "Don't call anyone, Elena," he said calmly. "It's the main intake regulator. It's frozen and probably cracked." He worked for 2 solid hours in the freezing basement, not with complex computer diagnostics, but with a simple blowtorch and replacement parts from his truck. Elena stood beside him, holding the flashlight steady. She didn't offer to hire a team. She offered steady light and silent observation. She watched the complex, chaotic problem yield to Lucas's patient, practical skill. The moment the pilot light caught and the boiler rumbled back to life, filling the air with blessed heat, Elena felt a surge of respect stronger than any adrenaline rush from a billion-dollar deal. "You saved us," she whispered, wrapping her arms around his grimy neck. "No, Elena," Lucas corrected gently. "I just fixed the furnace. That's what I do. And in this world, that is infinitely more valuable than a private jet." That incident sealed her transformation. She saw that Lucas's quiet, functional life wasn't small. It was grounded. She saw that his true strength lay in solving real, tangible problems, not abstract financial ones. His skill, not her wealth, had protected their daughter that night. One afternoon, Mia proudly presented them with a new drawing. It was on a large, colorful sheet of construction paper. In the center, there was a small, clearly drawn, friendly house with a smoking chimney. Standing in front of it were 3 stick figures: Daddy, Mia, and Elena. The figures were holding hands. The drawing was not about money, power, or boardrooms. It was about belonging. It was the symbol of their future, chosen, built, and grounded in a small, shared truth. Lucas finally saw that Elena was not trying to buy her way back. She was trying to build her way in. The dignity clause. Choosing sweat over stock. Despite their move, the core issue of their financial imbalance lingered. One rainy Tuesday, Lucas came home smelling of damp concrete and coolant. Elena was on a call, effortlessly closing a $300 million deal. He watched her for a moment, the sheer scale of her world suddenly oppressive. Later, as they lay in bed, Lucas spoke. "I'm not quitting my job, Elena." She turned to him, not surprised. "I never asked you to, Lucas, but you don't need to work 16 hours a day anymore. You can focus on the local jobs. Less strain." "No," he insisted, sitting up. "I need to. My value isn't tied to your stock portfolio. My value is in being a man who provides with his own hands. If I quit, I become a reflection of your success, not my own. I need my name to be Hartmann, the technician, not Elena Weiss's husband. Can you accept that I will still get dirty, that I will still be tired, and that I will still earn less in a month than your personal assistant earns in a day?" Elena reached out and touched the calluses on his hand, the hands that saved her from falling. "Lucas, those hands are the reason I fell in love with you in the first place. You refused to take the easy path. That is your strength, not a flaw." "Yes," she affirmed, her voice absolute. "I accept your world. I will simply hire a new personal security team, not to protect me, but to keep the media away from your work truck. You can keep your dignity. I will simply guard it." The resolution was practical, not financial. Elena respected his boundaries and Lucas accepted her shield. Their relationship was built on a fierce protection of each other's core identity. She protected his pride. He restored her humanity. Elena moved her primary operations to Vienna, refusing to live apart from her new family. Her presence stabilized the European market, ironically proving to the board that her focus was sharper than ever. Lucas knew the final step had to be his. He drove Elena and Mia to the quiet, rolling hills outside the city, to the small, peaceful cemetery where his mother was buried and where his wife had joined her. It was the place he came to remember why he stayed. He stood by the headstones, Mia holding his hand. He looked at Elena. "I stayed all those years ago because family mattered more than ambition," Lucas said, his voice soft but resolute. "I still believe that. I stayed because I promised I would. I had to choose what was real." Elena didn't need to be told. She understood. She knew that Lucas was testing her, asking if her choice was permanent. She took his hand, her eyes clear and honest. "So do I, Lucas," she whispered. "I chose the wrong thing once. I chased a fortune. But the real fortune was right here, in the life you chose. I promise you, I will stay too. I choose your world now." The vow of simple things, a unified commitment. Later that summer, they held a small ceremony in the garden of their new simple house. It wasn't a wedding, but a commitment ceremony, a vow to Mia. Only Lucas, Elena, Mia, and a handful of Lucas's oldest, most trusted friends were present. The evening light was filtered through simple string lights Elena had insisted on hanging herself. Lucas stood holding Mia's hand. Elena, wearing a modest cream dress instead of a power suit, approached them. "I made a mistake 12 years ago," Elena began, her voice steady but deeply emotional. "I believed love meant potential, not presence. I believed I could find happiness by becoming powerful." She looked directly at Lucas. "I was wrong. Lucas, I promise you, I will never confuse wealth with worth again. I will not ask you to change your life. I only ask that you share it." Then Lucas spoke, facing Elena. "And I promise you, Elena, I spent 12 years closing myself off to the world, thinking love only existed in hardship and duty. You taught me that strength also means accepting help. I will let you protect us. I will let you love us. And I will always be the man who keeps the heat on." Then she knelt down to Mia's level. She held Mia's small hands in hers. "Mia, your daddy and I have a long history. We are trying to build a new one. Would it be okay if I stayed? Not as a guest, as a family member?" Mia looked at Lucas, then back at Elena, a faint smile touching her lips. "Only if you promise not to buy Daddy gifts. He only needs the toolbox and me. And you have to help me with my puzzle." Elena laughed, tears instantly springing to her eyes. "I promise, Mia. No gifts, only presents. And I will help you with every puzzle, even the ones I can't solve." To solidify the vow, Elena offered a tangible gift that honored Lucas's values. She did not produce a diamond necklace or a trust fund. Instead, from a beautifully engraved leather folio, she pulled out a single parchment sheet, styled like a corporate agreement. It was the Hartmann Weiss family charter. "I can't stop being me, Mia," Elena explained, her voice firm. "So I used my skills to make this. This is our business plan. The purpose of this family corporation is the pursuit of joy and dignity. The primary asset is unconditional presence, and the only two rules are never lie and always fix what is broken." Mia solemnly signed the charter with a large, messy M. Lucas signed beneath, a tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. It was a perfect merge of their two worlds. The CEO's structure applied to the technician's simple value system. Their friends raised a toast, not to wealth, but to the extraordinary love built on ordinary truth. In the months that followed, their skills became seamlessly intertwined. Elena, the master of contracts and logistics, began managing Lucas's independent business accounts, drafting clean, legally sound service agreements, and optimizing his parts inventory, saving him time, not dignity. Lucas, the master of systems and engineering, took over the complex climate control and security systems in Elena's home office, ensuring her global communication network was flawless and her power consumption was green, improving her life, not compromising his. They were finally a perfect, functional unit, with his wrench and her spreadsheet working side by side. 1 year passed. The story of the CEO who chose love over billions went global, a viral sensation studied in business schools and celebrated by hopeless romantics. The media followed the story intensely, expecting the inevitable collapse back into the high-flying life. It never came. Lucas still drove his 15-year-old work truck to local jobs. He was happier now, knowing he worked because he wanted to, not because he had to. Elena, still the CEO of Weiss Global, ran her world from a compact, minimalist office in Vienna. She made sure she was home every single night for dinner. She was still closing deals worth hundreds of millions, but now the first thing she did after signing was check if Mia needed help with her math homework. The balance they found was not a compromise, but a redefinition. Elena taught Lucas about the nuances of the financial world. Lucas taught Elena about the enduring satisfaction of fixing something broken with your own two hands. One Sunday afternoon, a tenacious journalist managed to corner Lucas as he was loading his tools. "Mr. Hartmann," the reporter pressed, "your wife is one of the richest women in Europe. Why are you still climbing ladders to fix leaky air conditioners? Why not retire?" Lucas paused, adjusting his work gloves. He looked toward his small house, where he could see Elena and Mia laughing as they watered the new garden. "I retired from the wrong life a long time ago," Lucas said, looking the reporter straight in the eye. "I earn my keep. Elena earns hers. We share our time." "That," he stated, his voice ringing with the quiet confidence of a man who finally had everything, "is what a partnership is." He shut the truck door, got in, and drove off, leaving the reporter with a final, unanswerable truth. Some things are more valuable than money. Some loves are worth trading an empire for. Voiceover. He refused her money. She gave him the truth. Together they reclaimed the enduring love they never stopped carrying. If this story of second chances and true value touched your heart, subscribe to Chip Healing Stories for more emotional journeys.